All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode one of Rider Spotlight. It says Dennis Malice. That's actually my real name. It's not Denny Janetti. That's my alias. But it's not about me. We're not here about me. We're here for the guy who's sitting to my left or right, depending on how this comes out on camera. My man, Corbin. Corbin, again, first of all, I didn't say this to you. We've been chatting for a little bit before you got on here. Thank you so much for doing this because you don't
Yeah,
know
man.
me. You don't know me personally, and I think that like is a big leap of faith to just jump on the internet and speak to somebody, but uh I really appreciate it. And how you doing, man? I Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks. It's good. I mean, there's always kind of a risk when you put yourself out on the internet, but we've kind of been doing it for some time now, so it's cool. I think it's a cool idea of just like, yeah, seeing where this goes, kind of showcasing different writers out there and seeing what their kind of story is. I think it's a cool idea, so I'm here for it.
Thanks, man. You were the first person that came to mind when I did this. Because backstory, I want to say a couple months ago, I shot you a message on Instagram just saying, "Hey, man, I really like your stuff. This is kind of like what I would like to do." And you sent me what I can only describe as a thesis, in return. And I was like, whoa, I thought that was insanely cool because you A, didn't have to do that, and B, it just kind of speaks to the type of person you are. So I really do appreciate that.
Yeah, man, for sure. I love when people reach out and I don't know, it's like you're trying to grow the community. I'm just trying to grow the community, get people stoked on riding their bikes, and if I can do that through my content, then I've succeeded. So
So first of all, I need to ask you, and I think I've said this to you a bunch of times in your YouTube comments. Are you aware of how awesome it is of where you live? Are you aware? Are you aware that do you take that for granted? Because it's funny when I see you talk about like tech trails and things like that, I'm like, this looks like a flow trail. Because out here in the East, because to pull the curtain back, I live a mile north of New York City. It's just rocks. It's not really like a trail as much as just like find your way through these boulders. Are you aware of how awesome it is living out in the PNW?
honestly, I don't think so because I didn't even start like proper mountain biking until probably 3 years ago, a little
Okay.
less than 3 years. And I started basically when I was living up in Washington. So if people don't know, like I kind of live in Washington along like the I-90 corridor. So I have access to trails like North Slope, Tiger, Raging River. I can drive 3 hours up to Bellingham to ride Galbraith Lookout. And then I can also drive, you know, 3 hours south and go hit a bunch of Portland trails like Sandy Ridge, some unsanctioned stuff around there. So I have access to a lot of amazing trails, but I've never really ridden anywhere outside of this scope. So like when I and people like you'll see one of my most controversial videos I've ever created is when I've called Galbraith mid tier at best. And
Okay.
people like
Lost their mind.
yeah, some people like really lost their mind and just kind of destroyed me in the comments. But it goes to show that like if I'm driving 3 hours from where I currently live, like the trails should be as the best in the world. And I don't think I really totally recognize that just because that's I started with the best trails, you know? So
Yeah.
it'd be really hard to live or ride honestly anywhere else. Like I'm so grateful.
So, all right, let me go there. Let's pivot from there. I was actually going to bring up your Galbraith video because that's actually I was watching that today because I went back and I did my research. I did my research, okay, and I've never rode Galbraith. I just am going to say that off the top of my head, but I have heard of it as this amazing destination that like you have to go if you're in that area. And I don't think, listen, I think if somebody disagrees with your opinion of you calling him mid-tier, I think that's okay. Like, I think that's fine. But it's different from you just being like making some weird clickbaity title, like saying Galbraith is the worst ride in the world. But you actually supported it with empirical evidence. And so I just want, while we have you here, what about it do you think is like maybe, gets a little overhyped? What about that?
Yeah, for me, a lot of it was access. So I had I had built it up in my head as well as being like one of the best, if not the best trail systems in Washington. Like you hear of Bellingham, Washington, and you just immediately think of the mountain bike culture, right? Like Transitions Outpost is up there.
Yep.
Uh, Evil is up there. So there's like some nice quality brands that are testing their bikes out at Galbraith. And it's
Yeah.
just like it rings a lot of bells. And so I built it up to be super hyped, to think like these trails are just the best in Washington. And my first experience up there was demoing the transition relay, like when they
Hmm.
first released that bike. That was my first e-bike ride. And so I had to drive close to 3.5 hours to get up there. And it was pouring rain. And I was on my first e-bike experience from the outpost and then just like e-bike in general. And the bike was just unfamiliar. So I had a route planned, but if you look like it is a legit labyrinth of trails, and I
Yeah.
didn't have a guide. No one was with me.
Yeah.
And so that was just a really tough first experience because the route that I had planned on Trailforks, like I pre-planned it based on what was really popular. The trails I wanted to ride like weren't really open. Some of them
Hmm.
were. So I found
Okay.
myself like climbing up things that you know, weren't the road. They weren't just descending only, but it was just like I was getting lost because I couldn't follow the route.
Right.
Um, and then I went back a couple other times because I was like, man, that's just a bad experience. I could relate that to the bikes, to the route, to the weather, like you name it. And every single time was kind of the same of when I was route riding Galbraith, I just thought, man, I had to drive so far when I could
Hmm.
drive the half amount of time and go to Tiger Mountain,
Right.
Raging River. I have North Slope 20 minutes from me. And I
Hmm.
think these are also like destination spots.
Hmm.
Uh, and they've kind of fit my riding style a little bit more. Like I like to climb a long ways so I could descend a long ways. I'm not
Right.
as much of a fan of, you know, 200-foot elevation type trails.
Hmm.
And so that's what kind of prompted the Galbraith video. And yeah, my buddy Lomer MTB Paul, he lives up there and he knows
Right.
that mountain. He knows all of those spots super well.
Yeah.
And so he was like, dude, you've I'll show you a good time.
Yeah.
And that's where I discovered like Cougar Ridge, and a couple other trails out there that I hadn't really ridden. And so it was a night and day difference. Man, when you have a guide up
Oh yeah.
there to show you, like, no, there is hype. Like, let me show you what the hype is about.
Right.
And that's like the video is like, yeah, I thought it was mid tier, but then riding some of the trails like Cougar Ridge made it into my top 10 list. And that was
Yeah.
the first trail I rode in 2025. Like, that was sick. Right.
Right.
And I even said in my video, I was like, this kind of makes me think that that drive is worth it. And so I can see what the hype is about, but for me, it's just like it is relative access. If people are flying here, um, I mean, you could take your pick, and I don't think you're gonna be
Right.
disappointed if you like miss Galbraith and you go to Tiger, for example. But
Yeah.
it's it is relative. Like people have opinions. People just like to think other people's opinions are wrong. But I actually
It's
got
the
some
internet.
comments. Yeah, and some people were like, I always thought Galbraith wasn't as good as people said it was, but I was always kind of afraid to like say something. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like a cult following, but it also feels bad. Like if someone just kind of talks crap about like your home, or if you help build those trails and
Right.
maintain them, it's like
Right.
those trails aren't bad by any means. It's
Yeah.
just my preference is for trails that are closer.
Right. And I saw the when you followed them Lomer MTV. I watched that's the one I saw, and I saw you when you cooked it on El Diablo,
Oh yeah.
and I was just, and it's funny too because it's like I think you mentioned in there one of my favorite lines from the video is when you were riding Cougar Ridge, you were like, well, we're on a ridge, you can look to the right because I'm not going to. And I was it's like it's so interesting too, especially like, so again, let me go further with this. It's like you said having a guide. How often do you find yourself when you go to like a different trail network that you might not know? Because I imagine by you, there's just it's a litany of whatever it is you want. When you go by yourself, is there something to that? Like that, is there a little special where it's like you're kind of exploring by yourself? Or do you prefer like having someone to kind of just take you on on an adventure and almost send you into the woods like I think Lomer did?
It it's kind of actually a big question that I've been talk or thinking about outside of the YouTube thing is like, do I prefer writing alone versus writing with people?
Hmm.
Um, and it goes, I don't know, like everything, there's positives and negatives of both.
Hmm.
I found lately I've been writing more by myself, and I've been really, really enjoying um, filming these like clean and three episodes
Right.
that are super fun to get out by yourself. You're on your own schedule. You don't have to, wait for people to show up at the trailhead. You can climb at your own speed. You can kind of do the trails you want to do. That's been super fun and really enjoyable to me and just how I want to ride my bike right now. But it's really hard to beat days where you're out with the squad. You have, someone to follow, especially on a new trail system. But the thing that I've been thinking about is like you can only ride a trail blind one time.
Right.
And I just don't really like following people when I ride a trail blind. I feel too anxious of keeping like right on their tail to get good footage, to have the right lines, when I'd rather just ride something and see how I intuitively,
Right.
piece apart the trail because I
Yeah.
you can only do that once. And then on the next ride, then I'd like to follow somebody, see what they do. And you can kind of ride a little bit different trail that's the same one kind of deal. So um I don't know. For a new trail system, it's most trail systems aren't Galbraith, let's put it that way, that aren't a
Right.
total maze. Like Trail
Right.
Force
Right. Right.
does a really good
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
Um, so I think Galbraith is kind of the exception, but I do think for most spots, I kind of just like to explore on my own at
Gotcha.
first and then go back. Like even at Port Angeles for Dry Hill, my first experience out there was just totally by myself, and then I saw how good those shuttle laps were.
Right.
And then I went with my friends and was able to follow all of them and do like that Christmas day. So it goes kind of back and forth. But yeah, I think in this next season, I don't know. I've been riding my bike alone more and it is quite fun.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
I agree with you. I am it's strange when I used to race BMX back in like the late 90s, and then I got away from it, and then I only started riding like mountain bikes 2 years ago. And I didn't have anybody to ride with, and I started riding meeting people, and like I love it, but there is something to be out in the woods kind of alone by yourself and explore. It's kind of like the ultimate stress reliever. I work in New York City. I work on public transportation, so I see thousands and thousands and thousands of people a day. So being amongst just the deer and like the chipmunks is the best. I do like being with people, but there is definitely something. And there is, I'm really glad you said that. You can only ride a trail blind once because there's something really special about riding a trail that's really good for the first time and just how you react and how
Yep.
you that's awesome. And I'm glad you brought up the clean and three because that was going to be something I asked, man. It's like I swear we didn't even we didn't
I
even
know.
play this. How so I really like those because I think like everybody likes to talk about, especially in mountain biking, is progression. It's like progression, progression, progression. And how has that helped you as a writer? How has that helped your channel? How has that helped you in general? Do you think it's something that everybody should do? I imagine yes.
Yeah, for sure. It has not helped my channel. So that series is actually one of like the worst
Really?
performing quote unquote series.
Interesting.
They get they just don't really grab new people as
Hmm.
much as like I'd want them to. So I originally got the idea from Brian, who he's just like been racing mountain bikes for so long. He
Right.
makes some really good kind of review content, and I saw his based on his KOM Chronicles, but he can back up getting KOMs. I can't. Like
Right.
I've been biking for 3 years, and so my spinoff was like, yeah, I want to just want to progress and live in my own mountain bike world and try and see like, can I really make something cleaner? Can I get faster, but can I do the features better? Like, can I just progress?
Hmm.
Um, and it doesn't resonate with new people, but I've like for my core audience, I think people have really been enjoying them. And like I mentioned before, that's been my favorite way that I
Hmm.
have been riding my bike is by
Yeah.
doing this. And it started with also like so Brian, but then Danny Hart, like watching a lot of his vlogs back when he was on GT, and he
Yeah.
would just race the same.
R.I.P.
Yeah, he would just race like the same track though, like over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And it was really cool for me to watch as a viewer to see how he was taking different lines, how he was studying it, getting intimately familiar with it. And I was like, man, I want to ride my bike that way. And it's definitely helped progress and kind of opened up like a new avenue. Especially, I would encourage like everyone to do it. One, because it does help with progression if you're looking for that. And it also helps with like a safe amount of progression. Like riding a double black trail blind, sending all of the new features. It's like,
Right.
no, you can ride what you're comfortable with, but try and just push it a little bit each time, a little bit each time. Yeah, that's just been to me, that's been super fun. I have to give a shout out to like the e-bike too, because that makes it a lot easier to do those. Do
Listen,
those. I'm a believer, man.
I'm so pro e-bike, you have no idea. I find pedaling uphill to be quite a nuisance. Gravity sucks. I'm a huge bike park guy. That's where like most of the small stuff people do watch me. And it's funny, you say you don't like it. You said before you're like, yeah, I don't really like the 200-foot descents, and it's like that's kind of all we have out out for here. The bike park that I go to, I'm not even kidding. I think the max elevation is 1,500 feet. It's hilarious. Like the difference in perspective. Like to me, I love it. Like it's
Yeah.
all I know. Like I've never been out there and rode that well, but I want to. It's something I actually wanted to bring up because I think it's a mantra of your channel. You said riding safely. You always say the most important trail is the next trail. What does that mean to you? Because I think that to me, I did a whole video on when I was trying to see what I wanted to do with this channel about, progressing and doing it safely and and just like riding in general because like I'm a total when it comes to like, I'm 33 years old. I'm not sending something blind when I got to go to work tomorrow. If I'm with
Yeah.
my buddies or something, that's completely different. So what does that mean to you? And like to me, I it means like, just listen, you can always do it again. You can always write it again. So what does that mean to you? Because I know that's like your kind of ch your channel mantra.
Yeah, it's pretty much just that. And I actually I got the inspiration. I kind of talked about it a little bit, but there was two places that kind of inspired me to get to think of this. One was when I actually worked at Amazon way back in the day,
Hmm.
and I had a general manager of a building basically give this opening speech, and he was like, "Safety is going to be the most important thing in our building. You have to remember your most important stop of the day." He's like, "It's not work. It's not coming here, packing boxes, putting things in totes. No, your most important stop that you can do each day is going home to your family. So you need to make sure when you're at work, you're thinking about going home to your family." Kind of deal.
Right.
And then I'm a huge book nerd. Like I love listening to
Hmm.
books, reading books,
Of
especially
course.
fantasy. And so Brandon Sanderson is like my favorite author. And he has a series where there's one quote in there, like the most important step a man can take is the next one.
Right.
And so with both those things, when I started mountain biking, I was like, man, the thing that's going to hinder my progression the most, and I'm always trying to better myself, I guess, is getting injured, like just time off the bike. And
Yep.
it's like, so seriously, the most important trail that I can ride is going to be the next one. And so like I have to just I'm if I don't feel super confident, I'm not sending anything. And you can even look at like we talked about El Diablo out at Galbraith. Like I hit that, but then I ended up crashing afterwards. And like I've
Right.
crashed, but none of my crashes have broken any bones, have landed me in the hospital. I got one X-ray, but that was because of a knee issue thing.
Right.
Uh, and that was the only one, like I've only had one crash to kind of put me off the bike for more than like 2 weeks. And that
Hmm.
was that was it. And so it's just like the most important trail of the day is like it's never worth it. Like it's not worth it for the views. It's not worth it for your ego. Your friends do not care if you hit the feature. Like my subscribers don't care if I hit, you know, any of the features. Like sure, people are faster and better, but like you can watch Remy Metallic. Like the people who are watching me aren't doing it because like I'm the best writer. Like that's just
Right.
there's way better writers out there doing the stuff.
Yeah. No, and I honestly like it's one of the things that I think drew me to your channel because, organically I just kind of subscribed to you because I was actually thinking and I wanted to bring it up. I was trying to think back what was the first video I saw of
Oh
yours,
yeah.
and I remembered it. I will tell you what it was because it might not be the one you think it is because I know you have one massive video which I want to bring up later, but it's really refreshing to see somebody say stuff like that because I think it's Dangerous Dave said that nobody cares if you ride it, only you. And that has always stuck with me, and you've kind of echoed that sentiment. And especially in a world where, like, people are just constantly, especially on YouTube, trying to grab attention, like, hey, what can I do? I know you just as well as I do. Like you put stuff out there, but you also watch a lot of stuff too. And there's so many times where you see these guys do these things and they
Oh
wreck
my
it
gosh.
big. And it's like I don't like watching the crash compilations. That I really don't. It drives me, I don't say it drives me nuts, but I'm like, I don't like don't get me wrong. I grew up on Jackass and like all that stuff. Like I find that funny, but it's like I don't want to see that. And like some of the videos that you see, and I don't want to name names specifically, but
Oh,
like
I'm gonna name names.
Gad, there's one person in mind who does this that drives me nuts, Gad. I want to see if you say it.
Um, oh, I can't. I'm trying to look up his name. There was a comparison that I really want to do. Um, what is his
Can you tell me
name?
what he did? Because I think I know who it is, and I don't like that he does it.
He like jumped off a cliff with like no
Louis Buchanan.
land.
It's Louis
Yes,
Buchanan.
thank you. So
Yeah,
this is the comparison I want to make.
yeah,
I wanted to write this, but I was like too nervous of my online branding. So, but
yeah. I get it,
I'm
man.
comfortable in that. I'm just gonna say it. So the time, if you don't know, Lewis Buchanan, he really pushes himself
Hmm.
always.
He's a great
And
rider. He's a fantastic rider.
he doesn't have like the thing in your brain to get you nervous as quickly as like other people do.
Yeah,
Um, and so he sent this massive, it's called, oh, I don't know where it is. Anyway, he just sends a bunch of stuff. Sending the biggest jump of my life puts me in the hospital. Yeah, there it is. 75 foot down. So he released that at the same time that Mark Matthews was building his mega drop. And the dichotomy between those two content creators in the mountain biking space was
yeah,
insane. So Mark Matthews was building this mega drop and he spent I can't even tell you how long just
yeah,
manicuring this landing, making it super perfect, making sure the run-in was super perfect, like multiple videos, many hours, getting this as safe as possible to send something that
yeah.
is
Just
huge.
right, 100%.
And then Lewis comes out and he's like, I'm just going to take a shovel and throw some gravel up here, pack it down, call it good. And I'm just like you can
Yeah,
do that. That's within your right, but it's like I just that's just not safe. Like that's not
yeah.
anything. I unsubscribed from him because of that video. That's not something I want to follow.
I
That's
also
not
did
something
as
I
well.
recommend people to follow.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know he got like a ton of backlash in the comments from doing stuff like that. Um, but it's yeah, yep, that's bad.
Yeah, we all right. I just realized I don't have the unlimited thing, so we might have to do this in two parts. My
Oh, it's
apologies.
fine.
My buddy used to pay for it, so I never had to worry
Oh,
about it. Okay. Um, so no, and then there was the one that he did, and again, I don't want to like sound like I don't know the guy. I've never met him. I probably never will. There was the one where he was in the slab and he basically bunny hopped over the gap and completely overload preloaded, and then his buddy literally had to grab him, prevent him. I mean, I just don't think people want to see him die is really kind of what it
yeah,
is. And for views on the internet. And like I get it. It's like you've got to push yourself and and that I get. Like I understand that, but like you got to do it safely. Like you really got to
yeah,
do it safely. Like I mean, how many days do those guys build at Rampage? And like for me, like there's a lot of young impressionable kids who watch this, and I don't want to be clutching my pearls, like like whatever, but like
yeah,
that really like I said, when the way you've done it and the way you say things like that, it's refreshing to see because I think the majority of people are like, hey, listen, you know, not today. Like, I mean, how many videos do you see when, somebody just like walks away like, listen, not today, I'm not feeling it. It's a little sketchy,
yeah.
but yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up because that's something that's always bugged me for a while, and I think a lot of people sort of have felt the same way about that too.
So another, I'm gonna name drop again, but in a really good way. Like Lewis is gonna do his thing. If people want to watch some gnarly stuff, like Lewis is your guy.
Right,
There's
100%. Yeah.
I think a lot of people have probably seen like the Free Hub magazine bike reviews,
Okay.
and all of those are done by a guy named Spencer Astra, and he
Oh
created
yeah,
his own
his
channel this year.
fantastic. Yeah.
He's a fantastic writer. He knows like the ins and outs of bikes. Like he can pinpoint like the differences. He's one of the main reasons why I don't really gravitate towards the review side of things because there are people like him out there that understand all the nuances, can feel them, and can just do an
100. Yeah.
amazing job talking
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
But Spencer on his own personal channel, he he's like, I don't know how to put it. He is always kind of riding within his limits. And
Hmm.
there's been plenty of videos where he's like, yeah, I'm not really feeling that today, and moves on like totally nonchalant because he gets
Hmm.
that it's like he's got a kid, he doesn't need to write any of this stuff. And he's a
Yeah,
writer that I just personally look up to.
right,
And it's like I don't know, that's the attitude kind of I want to like I want to
right,
have. And it's also a good kind of a excuse just not to send stuff. Like I don't want to say it's like a bad excuse. It's just
right.
like
No,
I
and
don't
so
know.
and sometimes listen, sometimes you're not feeling it, some days you're feeling it. Listen, it's it there I've we've all been there,
Yeah.
and I think to me like that was sort of a thing that I enjoyed. I will tell you, I'm just keeping an eye on the time. The first video I saw of you was Pink Bike doesn't think this video should exist. That was the first video I saw. And I that was right around the time when that whole controversy was happening and everybody was crapping all over Pink Bike, and rightfully so. I mean, I thought that was honestly despicable because it's like you're sitting here just because like you were a former pro. You're basically telling people you're not worthy of doing this. It's like, dude, who like I it's like get away from me. Like I got no time for that.
So just a quick backstory. What talk about the pink bike thing real quick if people haven't seen that.
Yeah. So the Pink Bike, I don't remember the guy's name. You might remember on
I don't.
one of their podcasts. Essentially, he said that he didn't think normal people should be posting on YouTube because they were, and I think the quote was bumbling down the hill. It wasn't worth it. You know, if you're not a pro, you really shouldn't be doing this. And people got pissed, like real pissed, and honestly, rightfully so, because it's like first of all, it's disrespectful, and two, you started off as a beginner too, like you know, I don't like I keep my first video up on my channel that I ever made. It's me doing some crappy rock chalk on my hardtail on an original hero. Just
Heck yeah.
because I want to remember like where I started. Like how, like you don't start at home plate. Like you don't. Like and when that happened, I saw your video and I was like, wow, I'm like, you know what? Anything that was like anti-pink bike, I was like, absolutely. Like, I'm gonna click on like, let's see what this guy has to say. And it was like the total opposite of you just like with this vitriol. It was just you being so just like chill and being like, hey, I'm gonna ride the hardest trail I can in the wet on my e-bike, and I'm gonna do it at my own pace. And I was like, wow, that's actually like the right way to think about this. And that would like really sold me because it was just like I think a lot of the time, and this is just gonna be me gassing you up for a little bit because it's
Oh
like,
no.
no, dude, listen, you deserve it, man. This is why I want to do this. It was I think there's a lot of people out there that they put on what I like to call radio voice, where they do the hey, welcome back to the channel type of thing. Like, and it's not authentic. And anytime I watch your stuff, it feels like you. It doesn't feel like you being someone, and it feels like I'm just like I heard years ago that the best podcasts are just sounding like you're having a conversation with your buddy. And
True.
like and when I listen to your videos, I feel like I'm just riding with you. And that to
That's
me
cool.
is what when I saw that video and I was just like I was like, you know what? This guy gets it, and I really liked it, and I'm really glad the algorithm pushed you towards me because then we wouldn't be here right now. But I do think that that's what I think for me really sets. It's genuine, and that's what I really wanted to highlight. And I really think that you're doing something really good. And like I said, I went into that video looking for somebody that's like, oh, F Pink Bike, F them, F this, and instead you were like, hey, I'm gonna ride this really cool trail and come along with me. And it was just genuine, man. So.
I appreciate it.
I want to give you that praise because you deserve it. So, all right, let me end this session. I'll
Sure.
send you another link and we will do a little bit more if you have time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got
It's
a couple
good.
more questions for you and then listen, if you're listening to this, thank you. Hit subscribe. Go subscribe to Corbin, man. Let them know where they can find you real quick.
Yeah, just MTB Corbin, MTB underscore Corbin. I think both would pop up, but
I'll put links and
yeah.
I'll throw it up wherever too. So, all right, we'll be right back. I don't know what I'm doing with this. I really don't. All right, hold
Here we
on.
go.
All right, we're back after that commercial break that all these amazing sponsors here. And if you are a sponsor, sponsor us. Or me. Who knows? All right, anyway, we're here with Corbin. He's been really cool, and this has been awesome to get to know him over Zoom. And I do sincerely hope one day I could find myself in your neck of the woods because I would love to get a tour of any. Tiger looks awesome. So
Yeah.
let's keep.
If you ever
Yeah, go
get
ahead.
out here, just hit me up. I'll give you a tour.
Absolutely, dude. You will be the first person that knows if I'm ever on the West Coast
Sweet.
because I'm a typical like Northeasterner. I just have never left. Like I think I've traveled. I went to Canada once in my life, so I was like,
Where'd
okay,
you go in
cool.
Canada?
I went to Montreal. That was only recently because my fiance drags me out and makes me
Uh,
makes me travel when I don't want to. But
yeah.
but so let's keep talking about that pink bike video because I really like that video. After we went off air, you said that you weren't entirely sure what you wanted to do with that footage. So
Yeah.
explain the origins of that video because I think that video
Yeah.
deserves some love.
So that video on my channel, it's called, yeah, Pink Bike doesn't think this video should exist, the horn. And so that's still like I'm looking at my analytics right now. That's still my third most viewed video.
Hmm.
Um and I again my buddy Lomer MTB, he rode the horn and then I kind of saw like his video riding it and was like, wait, that looks like a super sick trail. And so I made again the drive up to Bellingham to write it, and it was right after it got like fully sanctioned, so
Right.
I could actually post it on YouTube without everyone yelling at me. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. I knew it was going to be hard, but again, things on video just look so much easier than
I
they
know.
are in
Oh,
person.
I
Like
know.
it's crazy. And so I found myself like riding the horn and I was legit bumbling down it. Like I was expecting to ride it a lot better than I did. But again, the conditions, it was super wet and rainy. That bike, my Tim Peak is big. It's 55 pounds.
Yep.
55-pound e-bike on like a slower, jankier tech trail is hard. And so I really didn't write it as good as I thought. And I had the crashes. I didn't hit all the features. And I was sitting on this footage and I was like, man, what do I do with this? And then Pink Bike was like, the market is so saturated. Yeah,
Yeah.
if you're a small creator, you shouldn't be posting stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I was like, I firmly disagree. First of all, I recommend everyone to get a camera and start their documenting their journey if they're comfortable with it. It's
Yeah.
the coolest thing to see your own progression. Like you talked
Yeah.
about saving that first video of you doing the rock roll on your hardtail and whatnot. I bet if you went back and did that same trail, you just like cruise, you were like, wait, was that the rock roll? Did I just like you? The
When I tell you
progression is crazy.
when I tell you it's like this big, but like back when I had like never done it. But yeah, no. And I think I tell people who are like not maybe anti it, but like hesitant to do it, use YouTube as like a digital diary. You don't have
Yes.
to, yeah, that's essentially what I've kind of started to do outside of this because I've always wanted to do something like this. And but for me, like I live in an area that's not like a mountain bike destination. Like Mountain Creek is my local bike park, which kind of is because it's one of the first ones, it's one of the older ones, but I do it for me. Like, you know what I mean? And I think
Yeah.
that they should too. But yeah, no, keep going. I really loved that video.
And so I was sitting on this footage and then, yeah, Pink Bike said, people don't want to watch you bumble down the mountain. And I was like, that was me. I just bumbled down the mountain. And so
Yeah.
I like put together that story and was like, yeah, I'm going to bumble down the arguably Washington's hardest
Yeah.
sanctioned trail. And I'm like, it's just going to be genuine. And that's what it was. And I love that. Yeah, it did well. People did resonate with it. And it wasn't like totally slandering,
Right.
right? It was just like, there is a market. Like they were out of touch with the quote unquote the market, and what
Yep.
people are like really looking for. And so that was a cool one. But again, like I started YouTube as a way to just document my own mountain bike journey. Like I started posting essentially right when I got my first mountain bike. And
Right.
that's use it as a digital diary. I love that. Like you don't even have to make your videos public. You can just share them with your friends,
Yeah.
family. Like
100%.
it's free space. Like YouTube
Yeah.
does not charge you to
No.
upload these gigabytes worth of footage.
Yeah,
Like,
it's crazy. It's crazy when you think about it. Because I remember being in high school in 2007, watching my first YouTube video, being like, "People make money on this? This is free? Like this is crazy! Like
yeah.
it's awesome." But all right, I love that because, like I said, as I was gassing you up, rightfully so, I may add, that it is genuine and it wasn't like I went into that video expecting something completely different, and I left being even happier that it was completely the opposite of that. But so let me actually now switch over because there was one thing I really wanted to talk to you about because it's one of the other videos I really like yours. It's probably my favorite video of yours. It's the video titled "What Mountain Bikers Don't Talk About." That video that one resonated with me probably more than any other video I think I've ever watched in mountain bike YouTube. And that's not me. I'm not just saying that because you're here. I mean that. I really do.
I appreciate it.
Because every one of us who ride have driven a long distance, taken a trip, and they've made it to a mountain bike, trail network or bike park, and it hasn't gone well. So I know what it means to me. So explain the video to me or to everyone listening, and then I want you to talk me through like how that day went and how you
Yeah.
kind of shifted your perspective.
Yeah, so the essentially the whole idea of the video, if you haven't seen it, high level overview is just like I drove really far to ride this new trail system with the idea of hitting one particular feature. It was
Hmm.
a road gap that I saw like a 12-year-old kid on YouTube just completely smash. And I was like,
We've all been there.
that's cool.
We've all
Yeah, I
been
was like,
there.
that's cool.
Yeah.
And so I drove down there and when I was riding, like I could tell right off the bat, I was super tired. I just wasn't really connected on the bike. I almost didn't even want to like film that day because I just didn't want to. I don't know. I just wasn't really feeling it. And I ended up not hitting the feature and everything. And then I was just kind of getting discouraged on my first lap and was like, I, I'm not going to be able to hit this. Yeah, I'm not riding well. And then I was kind of looking back on it and I was like, people feel this way. Like I'm not the only one that feels
Right.
like not every day on the bike is amazing. Like some people will say, "Oh, there's no bad days on the bike." If you've never had a bad day on the bike, like I envy you.
Yeah.
And it's not just like because I have the uh I don't know, the blessings to ride as much as I do, but like literally not
Right.
every day is amazing.
Hmm.
And so that perspective shift was like I'm at a new trail system. I have driven all this far. Like, how can I make the most of it? And it was like, I need to put away the expectation of hitting the feature because, again, the most important trail of the day is the next one. Nobody cares if I hit this feature. If they really need to see somebody do it, they can go watch the 12-year-old, the 8-year-old do it. Like,
I
that's
know.
that's cool,
Do
right?
your thing.
But yeah,
Yeah.
do your thing. And so that video kind of, and then when I sat down and edited it, it was like, it just kind of fit. And that's I think the third iteration of the video that came out. So what some people don't realize is like when I make kind of a story driven video, it
Hmm.
doesn't always start out like this is what I'm gonna go and film. It's like
Right.
I'll have the footage, I'll have somewhat of an idea, but then when I'm editing it is like that doesn't work, or I want to, there's more here. There's like more substance that I could do. And that was one of those videos where it's like, I actually really want to talk about having a bad day and getting frustrated. My buddy texted me before that video came out and he was like, yeah, I just had a really rough day on the bike. It was really
Yeah.
frustrating. And I was like, yo, same. Like
Yeah.
people experience this.
Yeah.
And is there something that I can do to kind of help or at least tell people like you're not alone and there's like so there's ways to get over it, right? Of just shifting your perspective, trying to, you know, just enjoy a new trail system.
Hmm.
Just kind of, yeah, change your perspective. You're not hitting the feature, but what can you do? Can you get better at something else? Can you
Right.
just, I don't know, just like change your perspective and stuff? But it's tough. Not every day is great.
I think that it resonated so well with me because of two things because it was driving all the distance and having that kind of internal feeling of, man, I really got to make this worthwhile. I went out of my way, I did this, I did that, and I kind of had that happen to me. I think you commented on the video with all the rock rolls that I did. The first time I
That was a
went
really
there,
cool video, by the way.
thank you, buddy, I appreciate you. Um, the first time I did those, I went there, I hit none of them because again, GoPro effect that like I was alone and I was just not feeling it and I was pissed because I drove an hour south and I was like,
Oof.
I got lost in there and I was so mad and then I went back with my boy Andre and I hit them all and it was a little touch and go a couple times but when you're going down a vertical rock face I'm a big guy I'm 230 pounds and like my brakes don't do well like in that instance but that sat well with me. And then from a YouTube perspective, when you said, "Oh, I had the thumbnail and everything already planned out," like I've done that before. Like I remember one time I drove to Connecticut from here. It's only an hour from here, and there was this because the lighting was perfect. It was cloudy, and there's this field that has a jump line, and it's got wildflowers, and I'm like, "Oh, this is gonna look so good."
Yeah.
And in my head, I had the camera at the wrong angle, so it didn't get anything. And I was like,
No.
"Oh my God." And I just was like we've all been there. And like you said, you never had a bad listen every day you ride is usually a good day, but like there are days that you have that you're like, man, I just don't have it today. And I think that's like, especially in a space like YouTube where everybody's like, oh my God, welcome back. This is the best day ever. It's genuine. And like I've said that a
Mhm.
million times, but like when I watch your channel and I watch your videos and even just talking to you now, man, it's like that's the main thing that jumps out to me. And that really resonated well with me, and I think that is an absolute home run of a video, brother. I really do.
Thanks.
No
Appreciate it.
problem.
It was hard to yeah, it was hard to make. And like another thing I think people don't fully realize unless you do the YouTube thing is when you talked about also like going there and having a thumbnail planned is there's there's a lot of extra stuff that goes into making a video.
Yeah,
Even the videos that are just like I just need to get out and ride. And part of I guess 2024 for me was making one video a week, dropping every Monday at 6 a.m. 52 videos. Like I just want to be really consistent, full-time
yeah,
job,
hmm
all that stuff. Just be consistent and see what happens. And creating videos like what mountain bikers don't talk about or
yeah.
that's so time consuming. And
Oh
creating
yeah,
the like trail system review videos, so time consuming that some days, yeah, you just need to crank out, go for a ride. Here's my ride. Nothing special happened. Just
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I rode my bike. But then the days that you do want to do a story, you do think about the thumbnail, you do think about editing. Maybe you add the music, you add voiceovers, you make it engaging. Like that just takes so much work. And sometimes it will almost like put you off of wanting to like make something if you
Right.
think all of the work has to go into that. So all my advice would be if you're trying to get into content creation, know that it is a lot of work.
Oh yeah,
If you're watching this and you're doing like a personal diary, like don't forget like why you're starting documenting your journey and know that your biggest fan should be yourself. Like you should love watching your own videos back. And if you don't love watching your own videos, odds are no one else will.
right. Yeah, it's the old cliche of if you're not enjoying it, nobody else will.
Yeah.
I have to say I watch my videos more than anybody else, so
Yeah.
it's like,
Yes.
and I don't have a problem with that because it's like again, I did a whole thing. About like being frustrated with kind of the state of like mountain bike YouTube because it is sort of a there's a I have sort of a mentor. His name's Trail Sage, and he's like 10 years my senior, but he's a really good guy. And he gave me like some of the best advice I ever had. He's like, listen, you don't ride like Remy Battaglia. You never will. He's like the anything you do, like just slapping, POV footage, it's not enough most of the time. Like you've got to, you've kind of got to, you have to be you and you have to sell people on you. And if some people don't like that, so be it. But it, the YouTube game is such a rat race. And like I love like one of my personal favorites is Sam Pilgrim. I think he's great. I'm there for his personality. But like I do not love the whole like I'm gonna take this bed frame and make it a bike. Like I would never do that. Like I don't see myself ever doing anything like that or me buying a bike on Facebook Marketplace and being like, how soon can I break this? Like I wouldn't do that. But no, it is like you said, you have to enjoy it first. And there is a lot
Yeah.
of work that goes into it.
And that's like just one thing anyone's going to learn with content creation is like finding your niche. So we talked about how like
Hmm.
saturated the market is, and again, I love it. Like I talk about this in tips of getting started mountain biking. Like if you
Yeah.
just Google any of the trails in your area, somebody has a GoPro and is filming them and
Yeah.
is posting them, which is
Yeah.
super cool, right? Like that has its place. But if you want to grow this into something that maybe makes money, if you want to grow this, get some sponsors and get an audience, you have to do more than just POV rides. Like the bare minimum is good audio, good video. Like you
Yeah.
can't have mud on the camera. You've got to make sure it's clear.
Yep.
You can't like you got to understand some color grading. Like they can't be hard to watch, like hard to listen
Yes.
to, things like that. But
Yeah.
then you do have to find your niche. So like this past year, my biggest video that's ever come out is Tenet. And I know
Yep.
we were gonna like talk about that, and this is just
Oh
kind of a
yeah.
good segue is like that people haven't really done full trail system guides. Like we have Trailforks, which is an impeccable tool.
Yeah.
Um, and out in the Pacific Northwest, a content creator, Claire Jenks, she doesn't do YouTube anymore, but she used to kind of do the whole guide thing. And then there's voiceover trail reviews that kind of did the guide thing.
Yeah.
Um, but I was able to do it a little bit differently and am doing it a little bit differently, where it's like if people are coming to Washington and Oregon as a destination mountain bike, like if somebody is flying out here to ride trails, I want to make sure they have the best experience they can, right? And if I can do that by putting together a video where they can watch it and they have all the information they need to know if they want to go visit that trail system, what routes they want to go in that trail system, what trails they might do. Like it would suck to fly here, drive here, and then ride some like get on a trail that you just don't enjoy.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, now I wasted this. I don't ever want to say it's wasted again, but like there's a certain level of expectations, I guess, when you go
Yes.
out for a ride, especially at a new spot.
Yeah.
And that I don't know, that's kind of where the trail systems came out. And like I've always wondered how many people are subscribed to my channel because of just that. Like they don't want to see my progression. They want to see
Right.
trail system reviews, right? But it's like I'm not going to turn my channel into just a review,
Right.
so it's like it's kind of finding that balance. And I've created a goal for 2025. I think I'm going to do 4 trail system reviews, like one per quarter kind of
Hmm.
deal, because they do take a ton of time, ton of effort,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
I think they're yeah, super valuable, and it's a niche that I can fill like on
Yeah.
yeah, on YouTube.
Yeah. No, and that's I think when I got in contact with you, I'm gonna butcher this name. Snoqualmie? Is that
Yeah.
it? Did I get it right? Okay, good. I was dreading that. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you did that breakdown of I think it was silver fir, and then I that was like, oh, I'm like, I like that. I think this is something, and then that's when I reached out to you. But I think you're 100% right because I think that majority of people, the first thing we do when we go before we go anywhere, it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna take a trip up to, wherever. Let me see what these trails are like. Is it in my wheelhouse? And yeah, it's like it's also nice to have somebody who, rides a similar style as you, like, yeah, cool. I just watched Remy Metallier just yeet himself, off of three cliffs and make it look like nothing was,
Yeah.
you didn't break a sweat. But like, oh, here, this is a normal guy who is a decent rider, and like, okay, well, he's doing it. I could probably do that too. And I think that I also love the graphic style that you do with it. It's not overwhelming. It's just enough. And then, like you said, good audio. Perfect. It's perfect, man. And I loved the Tenet video. I watched that back because I knew that that was the biggest one, and I did want to bring
Mhm.
it up. Um, that was so cool because I know it's a smaller trail network, and I know it's pretty new. And it's really cool to just see somebody go, you know, and ride every trail and be like, "Oh, this is awesome," and then just be so stoked on it. Like,
Yeah.
and not and it. I think the thing with that too is it didn't feel like a business trip. It was just you being like, "Oh my God, this is amazing," as opposed to, "Okay, this is a blue trail, this is a black trail." Like, it didn't feel like that to me. So when that video exploded, is that when the channel kind of started going trending upward there, or was it prior?
Yeah, it no, it that like had a huge impact. Right, like looking at it now, it's still got 46,000
That's
views.
insane.
Like
That's awesome.
that's huge compared to everything else, and it
Right.
still has like the most video that brought in subscribers and everything. And it was kind of so that the backstory of that video is also interesting because um, there was no business affiliation for it, right? Whereas my Boxley Creek and my Raging River video,
Yeah.
those I was commissioned to
That's awesome.
do. Like North Bend, the city of North Bend reached out to me and were like, "We saw Tenet, we loved it, we want access to it, and we want you to do two more. Here's the trail systems we want you to do."
That's
Right.
great, man.
And that was super fun to do. They're both, I think, good in their own way. But they're not Tenet. And I'm like, I don't know if I will have a video like Tenet because of just how stoked I like really was on that
Right.
trail system. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I firmly believe if I and like one of my goals is to have my own like backyard trail system kind of deal, like way in the future, but
That'd be
I
awesome.
would literally want it to be exactly like Tenet, like the elk, cougar, bobcat combo. Like those trails are phenomenal. And I looked it up, they're like 80 feet of elevation.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because like, okay, so truth be told, like that type of stuff is like what the trail networks we have is. That's what it's kind of like. Um,
Those are sick.
and it's really cool to see like that, even in a big place like the PNW where there's just these infinite miles and miles that like there's still these trailblazers that can be like, okay, cool, we have X amount of space, like let's make the most of it.
Yeah, for sure. And that I'm trying to pull up my analytics right now to see. But it so again, it's interesting to kind of look at like that video. Oh, here we go. I can pull it up. So that video talking about analytics got me 277 subscribers,
Awesome.
which I think I have like 3.5 right now, but um, 277 subscribers from one video is crazy high.
I know. That's awesome, man.
And it was what was also better, like the coolest thing is the next time I went to Tenant, people in the parking lot literally came up to me and they were like, "Wait, you're Corbin. I'm literally only here because I saw your video and was stoked to write it." And I was like, "That feels
That's
so
awesome.
good." Like when
Yeah.
people come up to you and they're like,
You're
"I'm
the
so
guy.
yeah,
That's
like you're
you.
that's you."
That's awesome, man.
That's super cool. Granted, I know like everyone on YouTube is gonna have a hater. Like I have those too. Like I have moments where I meet somebody and they're not stoked, right? Like I had one of
Really?
those down. Oh yeah, I had one of those down in Oregon, uh, and the guy like literally mocked me in the channel without knowing I was like MTV
Oh
Corbin.
no.
Yeah, so I'll tell the story because like
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
I'm not gonna tell it like on my channel, but that's cool. So I went down to this spot in Oregon
Yeah.
that's sanctioned. Okay. It's not on
Okay.
Trail Forks, but it's a sanctioned spot in Oregon.
Okay.
And you gotta like the locals want to keep it super under wraps because they don't have the parking. Uh they just like they don't have the resources to keep maintaining the trail system if it blows up. So
Right.
the landowner has sanctioned the trails. They have to like have signs, whatever. They're sanctioned, but they're not on trail forks, and people want to. The locals don't want to share them. Okay, for whatever, for all of their reasons,
Right. Right. Right.
valid or not, they don't want to share them. I come out with my camera, right, and I've ridden there before, and I haven't posted any of the videos. I posted one clip in my unsanctioned video, which I ended up taking down, which we can talk about later.
I
But
actually was, yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that.
we
Yeah.
so we can definitely talk about that too. But I posted one clip, and it wasn't even writing. It was like one scene. Um, and I got like a bike shop in Oregon messaged me and was like, you can't do that. Like a bike shop messaged me. So anyway, took that video down, even though it's just one scene. And then I come out and I ride this spot and I just film like I film almost all my rides because I do want to track my own progression. Like I'll film unsanctioned stuff, but I don't release that
Yeah.
to the
Okay.
public. So that's like I'll private it, literally make it like my own documenting. And so I was doing 3 laps down this trail and I like climb up and then I meet these this group of guys and they're like the first thing they say is that thing better be off. And I thought he was talking about my e-bike. So I was like, yeah, I typically ride it off like on the downhills because it's like hard to you just like don't really need it. And he
Yeah.
was like, no, I'm talking about the camera. And I was like, Yeah, I mean it's off right now, but no, I'm not going to release this stuff on YouTube. Like I'm just filming for myself. And he's like,
Yeah.
good, because we don't like any of that out here. And the guy was super just he wasn't pleasant. Like there was no,
Yeah,
hey, how's it going?
it don't sound great, be honest.
It wasn't good. And so I go down the trail, I like leave that group, and then I climb back up to go to do it again.
Yeah.
And then I get down after the second time or maybe third time, I can't remember. And there's this group of guys there with a larger group of guys.
Yeah.
And one of them just like eyes me when I get down. And he comes up to me and he's like, "What are you doing with that thing?" And I was like, "I'm just recording. I already talked to your friends over here. I know not to post this stuff. I know you guys don't want it
Yeah.
released." And he's like, "Yeah, we had some guy, some weird person out here doing these reviews, talking about like unsanctioned trails, and they were super weird. And what's your name?" And I was like, "I'm Corbin." And he's like, "Oh, have you ever posted out here? Like, you don't look like that guy though." And I was like, "Yeah, that was me. I took that video down, and it was
Oh
one clip."
man.
And this is like in front of, he probably has 4 or 5 other people with him. And it's that classic where like, I just finished the trail and they're all like surrounding me, right? Just kind of like looking at me. And I was like, are you about to rip off my GoPro and just like throw it in the woods right now? Like, what is happening? And so we end like, I used to do a lot of de-escalation work at Amazon. So I was
Yeah.
able to kind of like
Yeah.
de-escalate it. And we got kind of cordial, and I told him like I got his name. I reassured him I'm not filming for YouTube. This stuff won't go on YouTube.
Yeah.
But I asked him, I was like, this is sanctioned stuff. And he's like, yeah, it's sanctioned, but we can't get like the parking lot together. The locals are upset of how much traffic is already here, so we need to limit it. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, fair enough. Like I've got places like that as well that I don't totally blow up because of the same reason.
Right,
But I was
right.
like, but I have to let you know, like, if you have an issue, you got to message me or
Yeah.
talk to me like an adult. Like you can't just be like, what do you do with
Yeah.
that thing? Like start with the hello. Like
Yeah, that's a real that's the definition of gatekeeping right
just
there.
be
Yeah.
cordial, man. And so
Yeah.
that rubbed me
Oh,
super
I
wrong.
can't
Um,
imagine that would be a pleasant experience for anyone, let alone,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't want to get jumped either. So,
yeah.
that would be,
And
I
then
can
afterwards,
understand.
you like think about like you replay the conversation. You're like, oh, what if I would have said
Right.
this, or
Oh
what if
yeah.
I would have like
100%.
acted like this? And it
Yeah.
just sucked because like, but that's just part of putting yourself out on the internet is you legit
Yeah.
can't please everybody. And I've messaged some other people that know like of this individual, and they're like, he's a sweetheart. If you get on his good side, if you get on his bad side, like he'll make the community hell for you. And I was like, this is it
Yeah.
made me think of this other video that I want to do of like exposing the toxic side of mountain biking.
I'm all
I will
about
never
it.
do it because of the unsanctioned video got so much hate, but the mountain bike community isn't like it has its flaws, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
gatekeeping is part of it, and that and wanting to keep a trail system secluded and special, I resonate with, but
Yeah.
sharing is caring. When it's sanctioned, let people ride it. The other thing that rubbed me the wrong way is once that group was leaving, the guy turned around and saw 2 other people climbing up the access road. And he was like, I wonder what they're doing. And literally rode back down to go talk to these group of people. So I can't assume anything, but I'm just like, why would you need to go back? Why couldn't
Right.
you just let people be there?
Yeah. Yeah, no.
That
I am the
sucked.
same way. So, I will say this because once again we run out of time and we
Yeah.
do eventually have to wrap this up. As much
Yeah.
as I'm loving this, and we could always do it again, man, whenever you want. We got all right, so let me just go. By the way, so I in the last 10 minutes we have here, I want to talk about the unsanctioned trails because I did want
Yeah.
to bring that up. I did see that video before you took it down. I did watch it, and I was 100% on board with it because I do think people.
Most people were.
Yeah, I'm all about it. I don't listen. I don't gatekeep. So I have a video up um, that is an unsanctioned trail. It's weird. It's on Trail Forks, but it is unsanctioned. And I kind of just stumbled upon it one day, and I'm like, I'm gonna go ride this. And the trail was amazing. So what I wound up doing was I filmed it and I gave a general location, but I didn't give out specifics. And I made sure I was like, hey, listen, if you want to ride this, this is my Instagram, send me a DM. I'll let you know. Like, I'll give you the directions. And I had a couple people hit me up and, about it, whatever. Like, oh, this is really cool, whatever. And I think that that's the right way to do it. Or if, the trail builders are not totally okay with it, then just put it up and be like, hey, listen, it's in Washington. I can't really give you much, but hey, if you do research and you ask the right people, you might be able to find it. Where are you on that? Like where is your official standing there? Let's put it out there once and for all.
Yeah, so if you don't know, you didn't see my video, I made an let's talk about unsanctioned trails. I made a
Yeah.
whole video talking about this stance. And I basically went through the positive and negatives of having unsanctioned trails in the mountain bike community. And my stance was like they do exist, like they need to exist.
Right. It's the origin of mountain biking.
It's seriously the origin of it's how every mountain bike trail essentially came to be is some dudes just going down the mountain and then all of a sudden there's a trail and then you try and figure out how to make it like legal and safe afterwards. Like
Right.
I like unsanctioned trails, and I don't mind posting them, but the mountain bike community and trail building in general um, is it. There's just such a negative connotation of posting any unsanctioned trail stuff ever, even
Mhm.
if you don't give any location, you don't show the start, you don't show the end. Um, People still get super mad that you post that. And the only people that would know what trail you're riding are the ones that already know about the trail,
Right. That it's sort
which
of like
is
a weird
super
catch
weird.
22. Yeah, I'm with you. I feel the same way because it's like I do believe that there does need to be word of mouth stuff. Like, there's this. It's called Mount Beacon near us, and there's old unsanctioned stuff. And I knew it was there, I just didn't know. And I spoke to a guy that posted a video on it, and he like gave me the location. He's like, "Hey, listen, go here, go there." But now, even with that, like Strava has all the heat maps and all that stuff,
Yeah.
so it's almost even like, it's kind of like that's how I found it. He goes, "Hey, just look on Strava. I'll give you the name, and you'll find it." He's like, "The
Yeah.
entrance is hidden, but like, there's people posting segments on, for whatever," and I'm like, we're gonna gatekeep this, but everybody on Strava knows about it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of a bit of a, it
So
doesn't make sense.
that's my main issue is the gatekeeping. And that was the
Right.
biggest thing with unsanctions is one, it's not as safe. Like they're not listed. The place that I was writing at for the video that I ended up taking down, again, the overall majority of people really liked it, but the amount of there was like three or four really, really negative comments and
Right.
personal DMs basically saying like I shouldn't exist kind of deal. And
Really?
so
Oh,
yeah, it like there was some I was just done. I was like, there's no video is going to be worth me putting up
no,
with this stuff.
no.
And so the safety thing is one, but just the gatekeeping is like a lot of the unsanctioned stuff is old school, and a lot of people that are gatekeeping it are founders of it. They're builders. They want to
Yeah.
maintain it. They don't want their trail taken down, and I totally get that. My issue is the place that I rode at is very well known. Like Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance is very well aware of it. The people who
Right.
build there are very like it's the worst kept secret. There's
Right.
so many videos on YouTube already showing this is the trail name, this is the location, this is the trail system, and I didn't do any of that, right?
Right.
But that was the issue. If I would have shared my thoughts in this format,
Yeah.
maybe some hate just from people who disagree with like
Yeah.
that, but there wouldn't have been nearly as much. And so yeah, I took that down. And the other funny thing about the whole Oregon situation is I had a guy also message me and say, "Hey, those trails that you're riding, yeah, they're sanctioned, but we don't want people to know about it. But there's some unsanctioned stuff that are perfectly acceptable for you to film on that the builders don't care." And I was like, "What?" And so after all of this,
That is 4D. That is 4D chess to like the
I
umpteenth
was like,
degree.
"What? What?" And so
I don't
the last thing
understand.
I'll say about this topic is
Yeah, go ahead.
I after that really bad experience I had in Oregon, I messaged Dale Stone, he's like my mountain bike,
He's the
the guy I
man.
look up to.
He's the man.
He's the man.
Yeah.
And I messaged him on Instagram and I was like, "Hey, I just had this experience, I know he used to post a ton of unsanctioned stuff, like Jank Hunters, like all this stuff was,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and people would be like, "Where are you writing?" And he'd be like, "Oh, you have to go explore to find this one." And he sent me back a really long message,
I love that.
and it was super cool. And he was just like, I'm really sorry you had the experience you did. He's like, I've been the poster boy of hate for like doing this unsanctioned stuff. And he's like, no matter how much you don't disclose, like people are just going to be super upset about it. And he's like,
Right.
it's gotten to the point where it may not even be worth it for him to post that
Yeah.
stuff. And I'm
Well,
like,
especially with his platform. Yeah, I totally get that.
so I was like, it makes me feel better that, I'm not the only one that's getting hate for this stuff. And I just kind of have since made the conscious decision that most likely unsanctioned gems, I'm just not going to go through with posting them. But actually, what's also interesting is I think Jeff Kendall Weed, he's a pretty big YouTuber out here. I'm not
Hmm.
sure if he rides unsanctioned stuff. I think he does to test out some of the videos, but he doesn't put it. And so it's like if you don't draw attention to the trail, but if you draw attention to what you're talking about, like if you're doing a bike review or
Right. Yeah.
whatever, it's like people are okay. But because
Right.
I put in that video, like all of these trails are unsanctioned, people
Right.
are like, get this crap off your channel. You don't like, who are you
Get
to talk about
get the
this?
pitchforks ready. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, all right. So yeah,
Corbin,
that's the one of the only videos I've taken down is that one.
I totally understand, and just know, man, like I think one thing I've learned as I've gotten older is that like you're never gonna make everybody happy. And I get it. It was something like that. Maybe it's not worth worth your time, but I'm here to tell you, man, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
And personally, like I can't wait to see what 2025 holds. And like don't let that negative stuff get you down, whatever, man. And I think majority of your feedback is positive, and that's why I want to be here. I want to, people who deserve it, I want to gas them up. I want to, show the world like, hey, listen, man, like we're all human, and this is the face behind the camera. So
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough. I really cannot thank you enough for taking the time out of your Sunday night with, I don't even know what day it is, to talk to me and put up with me for almost 2 hours, man. And
Yeah. Thanks for
I,
hosting.
dude, I look forward, and hopefully some of your buddies, I can get in contact with them, and I will, we'll do this, and hopefully this was a positive experience. And listen, man, like I said, I'm looking forward to what you do, and keep up the good work, bro. You're killing it, man.
Thanks, man. Really appreciate it. It's been super fun to talk about it. Yeah, I'll hopefully be on more. Excited to see where this series goes on your channel. Denny Janetti.
Thank you, my man. I appreciate you. And listen, I have to end this because I'm like, it's like looking at the New Year's countdown right
Yeah.
now. I might have to invest in the pro. I'm
End it.
sorry we had to do that, but
End it.
listen, go subscribe to my man. Go follow him on Instagram, and listen, you won't be disappointed. So again, if you hung around this long, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, and of course you did. If you have a cat, buy that sweater. I don't even get anything from it. So anyway, thank you for watching, everybody. I will talk to you the next time I decide to do this. So anyway, peace.